Whirlpool, one of the haulers said, his voice filled with awe. No whirlpools on the Terran. Hightower sounded empty. Never been a whirlpool. An unfortunate occurrence. Moraine's voice was hollow in the fog that made her a shadow as she turned from the river. Unfortunate, Lan agreed in a flat tone. It seems you'll be carrying no one else across the river for a time. An ill thing that you lost your craft in our service. He delved again into his purse, ready in his hand. This should repay you.
Hello, I'm Will, and this is my wife, Dallas.
Hi!
And this is Not the Beginning, a podcast where a longtime Wheel of Time fan and someone who's never read the series before read through each of the 14 books in this very long series. A warning. This podcast may not be suitable for younger audiences and will contain spoilers. If you've not read Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World, please proceed with caution.
On this episode of Not the Beginning, we will be diving in and discussing chapters 12 through 16 of Eye of the World. Note, I have not read past chapter 16, and Will is going to do his best not to bring in anything from the rest of the Eye of the World or the other 13 books during our discussion. So as long as you've read through chapter 16, you should be good. If you haven't, I recommend pausing here and going to read them.
All right, so last time we left off kind of sort of anticlimactically, with Lan throwing a bunch of money at someone named Master Hightower to take them across the River Tyran. We pick off pretty quickly with that. They take the ferry across the River Tyran, after which it mysteriously sinks in a sudden whirlpool. On the other side of the river, they feel safe enough to rest and settle in for the night in a spot where Lan had prepared on his way in to the two rivers. While they're in this spot, which is kind of like a grove of fallen trees, Moraine has a talk with Egwene about the true source and the one power, explaining Egwene was born with the ability to channel Saidar, the female half of the one power. Moraine wants her to go to Tarvalon to train as an Aes Sedai, and Rand is not happy about that. They rest there for a short while and then continue along the way to Tarvalon. Along the way, Lan is taken to training the boys using weapons, specifically teaching Perrin to use his axe and Rand to use Tam's sword. While training, Tam tries to teach them the Flame of the Void, but Rand mentions that he's already learned it from Tam. While this is happening, alongside it, Tom starts to train them in various Gleeman skills like juggling and storytelling and whatnot. Kind of while traveling, Rand and Egwene get into an argument about her starting training to be an Aes Sedai, which was brought on by Egwene no longer braiding her hair in an attempt to emulate Moraine. They have a couple uneventful days on their travels. Mat starts to feel more comfortable and starts to wonder if he should maybe not go to Tarvalon, instead going somewhere like Ilion. Moraine interrupts this conversation, kind of dramatically telling them that she's there to make sure the Dark One doesn't get them, and if she thinks the Dark One will get them, she will destroy them first. Eventually, the group reaches the city of Berlon, where they take a break. They decide to stay there for a couple days. Here, Moraine informs the group that the people of Berlon, or some of the people of Berlon, it's a city, know Moraine and Lan as Mistress Alice and Master Andra, respectively. She also tells the boys and Egwene, to a lesser extent Tom, to not mention what they've run into, especially because there's a group in Berlon right now called the Children of Light. They go to an inn called the Stag and the Lion, where they get to take a bath for the first time in a while. While bathing, Moraine gets some gossip that lets her know that Berlon will be safe for at least a couple days. Their first night in the inn, Rand has a very creepy dream involving Balsamon, the Dark One. He wakes up from the dream and discovers that some of what happened in his dreams happened in the real world. Most importantly, several rats around the Stag and Lion have their backs broken. Despite the creepy dream and kind of building sickness he feels, Rand is determined to go out and explore the first city that he's ever been in. On the way out, though, he's interrupted by Min, who they met earlier. Min informs Rand of visions that she's seen around all of them, specifically some around Rand, and lets Rand know that they'll meet again. Rand is slightly unnerved by this, but doesn't let that stop him from setting out to explore Berlon, where he runs into Padan Fain, the peddler, who he last saw before Winternight. Rand is surprised that Padan Fain is alive and well, although not that well, because he doesn't seem like he's in great shape. And Padan Fain very kind of frantically tells Rand, don't let the Aes Sedai know I'm here. A little weird. Shortly after his encounter with Padan Fain, Rand runs into Mat again, and they get into some trouble with the Children of Light. After that close call, they return to the Stag and the Lion, where they meet up with Tom, and they talk a little bit about the creepy Dark One Balsamon dreams that they had. Rand, Mat, and Perrin all had the same dream. During this discussion, Perrin shows up at the end, cuts them off, and say, hey, we have to get back to the inn. Nynaeve followed us, and Moraine is confronting her, or she's confronting Moraine, rather. So, quick recap, but a lot of stuff happens here. Kind of broken into 3 different parts, oddly. Yeah. And for once, Moraine is not the queen of exposition. I think that crown goes to Tom in this one. Yeah, he talks a whole lot. So much. So much of Which, to be fair, at least for him, it makes a lot of sense. He's a storyteller. Right. Instead of Moraine's story time, it's Tom's story time. Yeah, although there is a dose of Moraine's story time. Well, but that's more towards Egwene, which we don't hear a whole lot of. No, which I kind of like. I like that you get, like, snippets of her conversation. Like, Rand is not an untrustworthy narrator. Rand isn't wrong about what he sees, but he definitely doesn't see everything. But he also doesn't pretend like he does. Right. He's very open in saying, I have no idea what's going on here. Right. Which is trustworthy to a sense. It's like, basically, don't take my point of view as being the all-knowing point of view. Rand is just a shepherd. He just wants to be with his sheep. And there's a line about it where he thinks that Egwene is, like, now getting tired of adventure because she chose it, whereas Rand has been tired of it from the start because he had to do it. He didn't want to leave to begin with. Yeah, so I really like that line. Yeah, and that's kind of one of the whole, like, in the audiobook, Robert Jordan goes on a little bit about how part of the premise for this was what happens if, you know, the, like, random farm boy doesn't want to leave his village and go on an adventure. Because, like, so often, especially in fantasy pre-Wheel of Time, it's changed a little bit, but, you know, classic fantasy, it's always like the farm boy's like, yeah, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna do stuff. And it's always the average girl or guy, and they want to go and have, like, a big life. Yeah, but sometimes the average rural child is average and doesn't want to leave home forcefully. Yeah. And that's where Rand is. That's where Perrin is, too. It's not where Matt is now. Matt is like, I'm having a grand old time. I'm going to play some pranks in this big city. He kind of... Yeah, big mistake. But yeah, he's just having a grand old time. He's like, adventure? Cool. Can we go to more cities? And Rand and Perrin are just like, I want to go home. Yup. And with the, like, week that they've had, I kind of don't blame them. Yeah. Their week started out with being chased by a flying man-sized bat. Yep. Progressed to the sinking of a ferry under quote-unquote mysterious circumstances, which we will loop back to in just a second. And then the rest of it's just like, let's ride real slow. And finally we get to a city. Yep. They like the city. They do like the city, but then also they all have this terrible dream. Which if they all had that terrible dream, then they all probably had the first creepy dream too, which we forgot to talk about last episode. We did. We talked about it after, and basically what Will told me was that it's all foreshadowing and to read and find out. Yes. Which was the third instance of that. Yes. The third of the read and find out counter. We need like a sound effect. We do need a sound effect. That was an off-camera read and find out. It was. Now it's an official read and find out. Yeah. So, Moraine sinks a boat. She does sink a boat, just casually. Just like... And we also find out that she's the one who caused the fog, too. Yeah. Like, all along the river for miles. And Tom has the audacity to be like, you couldn't have extended the fog any further? And she's just, like, proudly sitting there to land, being like... I just created so much fog. I haven't seen like 6 ice that I do that. Like, kind of like, pat me on the back, my warder friend. And Tom has the audacity to just be like, you couldn't have given us a little bit more cover? To be fair, Tom does, I think, rather gracefully quickly walk that back. He's like, you're right, I'm sorry. And there's another funny moment that I caught when they're like lining up for the ferry. There's all this fog, and so they can't see the people who are approaching them. And when Master Hightower, the like ferry operator, comes with his men to like operate the ferry, Lana's like, you guys should take out your weapons in case this is bandits. They all had this like... It was just, I just pictured all of these like tiny little farm boys being like, look, I have a weapon. Okay, well, tiny little farm boys and Perrin. Oh yeah, Perrin on his own is just a little bit terrifying. Like, you don't, like even if you just like, if you knew he wasn't trained, you just see this like super jacked guy. It's like, Perrin, I could crush you with my thighs. Alvear, what? Not Alvear. No, his name is, oh god, why? Perrin Aybara. Aybara. Perrin, I could crush you with my thighs. Aybara. Yes. And regardless of the size of his thighs, he's jacked and has an axe. And I just, I don't care if he doesn't know how to use it. It's still a lump of metal attached to a stick wielded by a really strong guy.
And he clearly, based on the size of his arms, he at least knows how to use it to chop wood. And
Right.
if you can chop wood, you can chop heads.
That's true. But anyway, so there's this, and Lan is just take out your weapons, and the men get there, and Tom does a knife trick. He's just look at me. Here's a knife. It's gone. Moraine is amused by it.
She is. She's like, "Aw, look at all my boys doing their tricks and stuff."
To be
Meanwhile,
fair,
I'm a sink a boat.
Yeah, to be fair, I think at that moment, Tom is the third most dangerous person there.
Because he has knowledge, knowledge is...
And, he does do... He it's not, a simple flourish with a knife. He,
makes it appear out of nowhere and then makes it disappear.
Right, so clearly he knows how to hide knives, and sometimes he can probably hide knives in people.
Yeah. But he also has knowledge, which, if Tyrion is to be believed, knowledge is the most powerful thing you can have. I drink and I know things.
Maybe
that says
maybe
Tom
in
does
Westeros.
Tom does have kind of I drink and I know things vibes.
Minus the drinking, because he doesn't drink very much.
He doesn't have the weird cloak though, so I feel like
He does have the weird cloak.
He's got that eccentric I know things and tell a bunch of stories.
He does.
No one takes me seriously.
No one takes Tom seriously.
I don't take Tom seriously either.
That's fair. That's very fair. But yeah, so Moraine sinks this ferry, and then she's just like, "Oh no, your ferry sank. What a surprise."
And Lan's just like, "Oh, the horror. Here's some more money."
Yeah, they just throw a lot of money at Rob. They gave this guy a lot of money up front, and then they gave him a lot of money on the back end, and then they sank his boat, and they're like, "Here's some more money." How much money do they have? It's coins. It has to weigh something.
It's Lan.
I mean, Lan's probably
Lan's
pretty strong.
pretty big.
Not as big as Perrin.
As big as Perrin. He's probably taller than Perrin. I feel like...
Oh, well, maybe.
In my head, Lan's really tall.
I mean, if you look at the book cover, Lan is a giant.
Moraine's super small.
Yeah, they're two entirely different species.
And then Nick Cage is just hanging out in the background.
Rand, Nicolas Cage, Althor. Rand feels like it's a nickname, but it isn't. It's just too short to be a full name.
Well, Matt is for Matrim.
Yeah.
It's just a dumb fucking name.
I like Matrim as a name.
I know you like Matrim as a name. That's why you do a Matt cosplay.
It's not a dumb name. I swear. Anyway, after sinking this ferry casually, they're kind of on the other end of the river, and Moraine just turns to Egwene and is like, "We need to talk."
We can have a talk now.
And then they have a girls' chat. But not about what you think.
Except in this universe, a girls' chat is gonna be I'm gonna wreck the world chat, where the boys' chat is "Hey, do you want to just go on an adventure? And I'm gonna try to tell this story that Tom told, but I'm gonna be really bad at it."
Somehow, it feels like the Emmonsfield boys get to hold on to their innocence in a much more real way than Egwene does.
Well, women never get to hold on to their innocence, but that's a whole different
fair.
tangent that I'm not gonna go on.
That's fair. Egwene does a better job at it, though. Egwene is still bewildered by all. She's amazed and enchanted by this adventure that they're going on, and all of the boys are
and it's
this
it's no wonder. I mean, she chooses to get to go on this adventure. She sneaks up on Lan, which she very quickly finds out is a thing that most people can't do. So pat herself on the back, and then she watches someone sink a boat. She watches someone create all this fog, and then that same person tells her that, "Oh, by the way, you have the powers to be me one day."
Yup.
I'd stop braiding my hair and be like Moraine too.
Yeah.
Especially since, me personally, I want to do a Moraine cosplay. Moraine's a badass.
Moraine is a badass.
She's great. I want to be more like Moraine.
Yeah. This kind of revelation does kind of spark a little bit of an argument, though.
It does. Rand is not happy about it, and this is where there's some trouble in Paradise going on, and that's what really sparks it, and they're just... they need to have a freaking conversation. I'll get to it later, though. They have this whole fight about why Egwene isn't braiding her hair anymore. And he's just "You waited so long to be able to braid your hair, and now you're not?" And it's okay, braiding hair or doing magic?
That's fair. I think what he's trying to get at is that he doesn't want to see Egwene disappear into Aes Sedai.
But he doesn't know that that's what's going to happen.
No.
Because he only knows this one Aes Sedai. And to be fair, all of his knowledge about Aes Sedai doesn't even come from his experiences with Moiraine. If it comes from stories. He's judged the book by its cover.
Yeah.
He's judged the book by all of these stories that he's heard about the Aes Sedai, whereas if he based it off of his experiences with Moiraine, he'd have nothing but good to say about the Aes Sedai, really.
Except for the part where she was like, if it comes down to it, I'll kill you myself.
I read that as I will destroy myself before that happens.
No, she pretty clearly is like, I will kill you before I let the Dark One have you.
I read that wrong.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, Moraine's gonna sacrifice herself before...
No, she will. She says that she will, do whatever it takes, but she also adds on, if it takes killing you, I'm gonna do that too.
I mean, kind of fair though, because after that dream that Rand has, where it's basically, you are the dragon incarnate, ?
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and especially, was that you are maybe the dragon, was that the first one or the one in this section? I'm pretty sure it was this one.
I think it was this one, because I was reading it, and there was this whole line about Amyrlin?
The Amyrlin seat.
The Amyrlin seat will use you until you are consumed, just like, and it lists a whole bunch of people.
Yep.
One of which is Rowland Darksbane.
Yeah, Rowland Darksbane.
Which apparently is the name of the guy who's now toting himself to be the dragon, correct?
No, Rowland Darksbane is old. The guy currently claiming to be the dragon is Logain.
Okay, those names are
Gildan.
basic. Which I think Lan might know. I think Lan might know him.
Okay.
Rand also thinks that Lan might know him. I remember that being a line somewhere.
He does.
Because the way Lan said something, it sounded more like a personal vendetta than just like a you are the dragon incarnate vendetta.
That's fair. Although, I mean, at this point, Logain has been rumored to have killed several Aes Sedai. And Lan is a warder. And there's clearly something going on between warders and Aes Sedai. So, like, it could just be hey, you're going around killing people I protect.
That could be it. So it goes on and lists a whole bunch of people who have been past false dragons. They're going to use Rand just like these past false dragons. Does that mean he is either a false dragon or the dragon? And because Rand and Mat and Perrin all had the same dream, is there some sort of like Trinity type shit going on? Like, are they all part, like, is somehow the dragon actually 3 people? Is it more people? Because there's also Trollocs in another area. Saldaea?
It is mentioned a couple times that that's not weird. Saldaea is on the borderlands.
Okay.
That's like around where Lan is from. Lan is a borderlander. And Lan is like, yeah, of course there are Trollocs in Saldaea. That's like, cows being in the 2 rivers. It's just, that's where Trollocs are. No Borderlander is surprised about a Trolloc.
That's fair. I just wonder that there was specifically these Trollocs going to the 2 rivers for these 3 people. How do we know that there's not other towns and other places?
That's fair.
Looking for the chosen one.
Very fair. I think it is interesting because before this we don't really have, we get like side glances at it because Rand, Mat, and Perrin are the ones who are really being stalked by the Murdraw. But it's not really clear that like that first dream Rand had was shared, and this one it's clear that all 3 of the boys had the exact same thing happened in all of their dreams. They said in the dream they were face to face with Balsamon, the Dark One, who, claimed that they were going to be used by the Aes Sedai in the Amyrlin Seat and broke a rat's back, like telekinetically. There
was also offering of wine, which I'm pretty sure was probably blood.
Well, that would make sense. There's a lot of references. Mm-hmm. This chapter also has a lot of like symbolism references, and he was offered
symbolism.
Yes. To say nothing of the stone. Did you get the reference with the stone?
The Stone of Tyr?
The Stone of Tyr.
No, I didn't get that.
There's a sword there.
Oh, something about the sword that's...
The sword
that can't be touched.
The sword that can't be touched.
And the Stone of Tyr.
Yeah. It's us.
So another reference to Arthur.
Yeah,
because there was one of the first...
sword and the stone.
It's the sword and the stone.
It's I mean, I know not all Arthurian legends...
Lawns and ponds.
Yeah. I know
does not make a form of government. What was that?
Oh, I don't remember the quote. It's Python though.
Python.
Yeah, it's maybe kind of Excalibur, even though that's not always what the Sword and the Stone is in Arthurian legend.
No.
Usually 2 different swords.
Yeah.
Because Excalibur comes from the Lady in the Lake, but Tyr is a land of lakes and like rivers and shit.
Soggy old blondes with their backsides in ponds. That's the first part of it.
I don't remember that quote.
It's from Spam-A-Lot.
Spam-A-Lot, okay.
I'm a theater kid. But yeah, so creepy old dream, symbolism. A lot of the information that we get from that dream, we also have got a little bit previously, like mentions of it came previously from Tom's stories. Because he talks about a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah. Well, he talks about Hawkwing, and the Dark One goes on a rant at the end about, like, Rand can't, Rand or Matt or Perrin, we're seeing it from Rand's perspective, though. You can't escape. I was there thousands of years ago. I made Luz Theron sane and made him and then he's turned into a volcano.
He made Volcano Man.
And then he was like, I sent Trollocs south 2,000 years ago, and then I corrupted Arthur Hawkwing. Balsamon is just like, by the way, all these shitty things that happened throughout history, that was me. What makes you think, random farm boy, that you can escape?
Which, fair. Everyone just keeps reminding him that he's a random farm boy.
No one less so than Min, who I swear says it every other sentence.
She did. She said it a whole lot. She also, I do not want that woman to read my aura, my palm, my tarot cards. I want her nowhere. I want her nowhere near any of it. Like,
She'd be very accurate.
I don't want to know. Like, I don't want her reading my even my horoscope. Like, I don't want any of it. Like,
That's
stay
fair.
away from all. I'd rather die not knowing any sort of thing that she has to say.
Because she has a lot of visions.
She has a lot of visions, one of which makes me sad that Rand and Egwene aren't meant to be. But also, like, fair. Because if they just keep avoiding having this stupid fucking conversation that they need to have, of course they're not going to work out. Like, so Rand, they get to the city, where they meet Min the first time, and Rand does some thinking in a bath, like one does. Because baths and showers are a great place to do all of your profound thinking. And so he's like, okay, maybe I should apologize to Egwene. And then he sees Egwene after all they've all had their baths, and she gives him the cold shoulder because she doesn't know that he's about to apologize. From what she's operating under, he's just gonna yell at her again for not braiding her hair, which, like, it's her hair, dude. Just calm down. So she's just like giving him the cold shoulder, and he's like, fine, if that's how we're gonna play it. So if they don't have a conversation, of course they're not gonna work out.
No.
Like, I like idiots to lovers as much as the next person, but, like, this at some point the idiocy has got to stop, and you got to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Just love each other.
Both of them have gotten hit by the idiot stick a little bit here. Rand has been hit with the idiot stick multiple times, and I think it's starting to do some damage, because him and Egwene is not the only instance of him being an idiot in this passage, because he also confronts the White Cloaks, the Children of the Light, and is like, what are you gonna do?
He's like, look, I have a heron sword I don't know how to use, but you think I do.
Yeah, and so the White Cloaks are like, grr, we're angry. I mean, their names, the term people call them is White Cloaks. That's just not good imagery.
No.
For pretty good reason. And they're just like, why are you just a shitty little farm boy? Basically, this guy's whole argument
they're all just like,
is...
you're a shitty little farm boy, aren't you?
Yeah. Like, that's this guy's whole argument. And then eventually the town watch is like, what are you doing?
And Matt's just like, you've lost it. What is happening?
Yeah, because it's kind of uncharacteristic for Rand.
Yeah.
Like, Rand gets out of this dream feeling bad because he didn't get a good night's sleep, and he runs into Perrin, and Perrin also didn't have a good night's sleep. But it's clear that something else is going on with Rand here.
Yeah, then he's like, maybe I have the flu. He's like, what is going on here?
But then he's got the crazy flu.
Yeah.
Because, like, it moves from, like, him feeling bad to him feeling reckless.
Right, because he comments on himself saying that, like, normally he would stop Matt from pulling this sort of prank, but now he's just like, well, I'm gonna see what's gonna happen.
Right, we didn't actually go over what the prank was.
We did not. So he pulls some kind of half Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Because he, like, scales a building.
Pretty impressive, to be honest.
And then knocks a whole bunch of barrels to go down the street.
They go down the street at the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
And then the
Which,
White Cloaks are
both of them got hit with the idiot stick there.
Okay, no. Matt didn't get hit with the idiot stick. Matt is just an idiot. Like, you have to not be an idiot to be hit with the idiot stick.
I guess fair, but I feel like...
I love Matt, though.
I know you love Matt.
Matt for life.
Are you a Matt simp?
No. Matt is too flawed, unlike Moraine, who is unflawed in every way.
He just loves Moraine. Okay, so I feel like Matt would at least have the common sense to not basically roll barrels towards a bunch of White Cloaks, which are kind of racists because they don't like the...
Aes Sedai. They really don't like Aes Sedai.
They're basically Death Eaters.
Sort of, except they don't do magic themselves.
But, like, they're coded
They're like
the same
the
way.
people of Salem. They do not like witches.
Puritans.
They're Puritans.
Hate
That's
the
what
Puritans.
But at least Matt has the common sense to, like, slingshot down the, like, thing supporting the barrels, but then he gets out of there. He's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
Rand's just standing in the middle of the street laughing at these people who are armed and hostile. Like, ha ha ha, look at you idiots, you got some barrels thrown at you.
Right, and, like, that would be a stupid move if he wasn't, 1, traveling with an Aes Sedai, and 2, being hunted by the thing that these people also are hunting. Because the White Cloaks don't like Aes Sedai, but they also don't.
They are so anti the Dark One that they think Aes Sedai are agents of the Dark One, which kind of makes sense. You know, it's easy to see how you could get there because
everyone thinks that the Aes Sedai broke the world,
everyone thinks all Aes Sedai broke the world, even though it was just the men who were driven insane.
Which we learn from Moiraine's story time with Egwene that Rand eavesdrops on a little bit.
I mean, that's kind of impressive, actually. Moiraine either didn't notice or he wasn't obvious enough for her to call out. I feel like given the...
Or she wanted him to know that information.
Maybe, but that's not Moiraine.
Because if she... Moiraine probably just didn't care enough and knew that if she called him out, then it would have just sparked a fight between him and Egwene.
Maybe. Counterpoint. Several times now, the inhabitants of the Two Rivers have displayed quite good tracking and sneaking skills.
Honestly, I think part of it is that Lan and Moiraine don't think much of these people, so they let their guard down. Yeah. And so they could be just displaying average tracking skills, and Lan really is just...
They're backwoods fuckers.
They're backwards. They're just like, these backwards fuckers.
With one exception. There is one notable exception at the end of this segment where Nynaeve tracked them. And Lan's just like, I did a good job hiding our tracks. And she's just like, I tracked with my father growing up.
And he's like, he must have taught you well because you did a real good job. And then she blushes, which is cute. Just like, it's just a humanizing moment for Nynaeve. And I'm just like,
whose personality so far has been anger and braids.
And it's just like, aw, you're cute. You're blushing now. Like, you do have feelings.
You have human emotions.
You have human emotions.
You don't have 3 modes, which is healing, anger, and braid tugging. Those are the 3 genders. Healing, anger, and braid tugging. Yeah, Nynaeve is a character. Because she shows up and she's like... you stole some children. Why are you kidnappers? But they're like 17.
But like, at least one of whom, Perrin, is like not reporting him missing.
Right, Tam's just like...
Leave him alone!
Yeah.
Let him go do his thing.
Tam's the best.
Like, no one has reported these children missing. Because if they are 17, I mean, that is still technically... Like, you can report adults missing. If they've been reported missing, I can understand...
Yeah, but this is...
Nynaeve is kind of like cop.
This is medieval times.
Well, like, the town collectively came together and reported these kids missing, and or reported these people missing, whether they were kids or not. Yeah. And so, like, Nynaeve is, I guess, the cop, but also the nurse, and she is, like, the only person in this town that has authority.
Nynaeve was just like, I don't care what they end up saying, I'm gonna go after them anyway, because she tells Moiraine and Lan that the village council sent her after them. But really, when she talks to Rand later, she's just like, yeah, I just left on my own because it was going to take them too long. Nynaeve is a very interesting person. And we learn a little bit more about Tam, too. What's your picture of Tam here now?
I just want to know more about Tam. I think I actually wrote that in all caps somewhere in my outline. Oh, right, because when Lan is teaching Rand about the Flame and the Void, he says that he already knew about it because of Tam. And so I'm like, was Tam a warder? I just want to know more about Tam! Yeah,
we also learned... So Tam did 2 things. He taught Rand about the Flame and the Void, and he also was just like, Rand's not missing? What are you talking about? But then also at the very end, Nynaeve is like, much like you're doing now, Tam left the Two Rivers for adventure.
Well, and we kind of knew that because he had an Outlander wife. He had to have either left the Two Rivers...
Or she had to go there.
Or that she had to go there. But I think the picture that Tam has painted to the town is that he just went like a couple towns over and found a wife. But like, that's clearly not what happened.
Okay, I don't...
That's at least the general picture of it is that like, he doesn't really say a lot about how he found his wife, but it is plausible that he could have just gone a few towns over and she was in the, like, I think it's very clear that his wife had not come to the Two Rivers before then.
Right.
But they could have met in a neighboring town and then she decided, like, she was traveling, he was traveling.
She's got Rand's red hair, though.
She does. Still not his biological parents.
Okay. I was gonna check in on that.
Okay, the Jon Snow flags are flying off the handle. It's like, Tam just comes back to town with a baby and says it's his son. Okay, Ned Stark.
He comes back with, he doesn't just come back with a baby, though. He comes back with a baby and his wife. Who,
the baby and the wife definitely come from the same town because they have the same visual and hair and build, like skin tone. It all seems that basically, like in the first description we got of Rand, it's like, you look exactly like your mother, except you have the build of your father, which like you're a farmer, so of course you end up developing the build of your father.
Right, because
farmers. I'm sure Perrin doesn't have the same build as his father because he's a blacksmith.
He's a blacksmith. His father's not a blacksmith, although is Perrin genetic? Is Perrin's tankiness genetic?
Or did he just did he get swole on his own?
Yeah.
I want to know more about Perrin too. He's just
Is this slowly going to become just a Perrin podcast? We just talk about Perrin the entire time.
Maybe. Perrin and Tam.
I'm not overly against it.
But yeah, I just want to know more about Tam. Because, like, was he a warder? Because if you knew the flame, or is the flame and the void just well known amongst anyone who does sword-like things? And my other question, now that I'm thinking about warders, if Egwene's gonna be an Aes Sedai, who's going to be her warder?
That's a good question.
Like, do you just get randomly assigned one? Are you born a warder? Or do you get to choose to be a warder?
Okay, good questions. I can't answer them because that would be spoilers, but good questions.
So, like, if she can choose, is she gonna choose one of her friends? Because, like, if I had to make some sort of bond, and I don't know how the bond works both ways, but clearly there is some sort of emotional connection between an Aes Sedai and her warder.
Right.
If I'm gonna it's almost like a marriage.
That's a good way to think about it.
So whether there's any hanky-panky going on the side, I don't know.
Do you think Lan and Moraine are getting it on?
I don't think they are, but I really do hope they are.
Okay.
Like, I really hope they are.
Just noting that for the future.
I also kind of, like, I either hope that Moraine and Lan are getting it on, or that Moraine is just some, like, big, strong lesbian. That would be great.
Okay.
I mean, she does live in an island full of women,
It is Vagina Island.
Yeah, Will showed me a picture of the island. It's a vagina.
Straight up shaped like a vagina.
It's a vagiland.
It's an island in between two rivers.
It's a vagiland. It's
got a big, like, circular harbor at the top. I don't think I need to explain what that is.
Well, you probably do to some people.
I hope not.
Some people don't know what that is.
That's entirely up to them. I'm not going to. Well, I'm not going to explain it. It's not that kind of podcast. Here we talk only about Perrin Aybara's thighs, nothing else.
Oh.
I mean, how do we even come back from that?
I don't know.
Let's just take a hard turn and talk about the One Power, because we learn a little bit more about the One Power again.
That actually is a good segue, because
it is.
The Aes Sedai Vagiland to the thing that they all do.
Yeah.
The One Power.
Yes. Saidar specifically. Moraine's story times are pretty much entirely centered around being an Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
She goes into a little bit about how the male Aes Sedai, who were the ones who broke the world, they weren't evil, they were just insane. They were driven insane, and we get a lot of that at the prologue. Like, the counter-strike from the Dark One when the male Aes Sedai went to defeat him.
We also get a little bit more of a picture on how that went down in not crazy terms.
Yeah, Egwene is under the impression, and Moraine seems to have something to say about it, but doesn't say anything about it. But Egwene's definitely under the impression that the male Aes Sedai were the one who let the Dark One out from his prison.
But what we learn from the dream is that he was never in a prison, if the dream is to be believed.
That's true.
Because he said, like, the whole point, Rand said, like, you were caged, and he's like, I was
You and
caged.
all the Forsaken were sealed in Sheol.
And he's like, no, I wasn't. It's like, you can't chain me.
Volcano Man really fucked up.
Yeah, he did.
Not only did he not imprison the Dark One, he turned into a volcano after killing all of his family.
After the Dark One told him to kill his family. That part
Yeah.
wasn't made clear in the prologue. It's clear now.
Yeah.
At least if the Dark One's to be believed.
Which he is the father of lies.
Yeah.
So he may have been imprisoned the whole time. Maybe dreams are the only way he can touch the world.
Possibly.
He could be lying about it. He lies about a lot of stuff.
He does lie. But it seems like all good liars base their lies in truth.
Yeah.
So I tend to believe a bit of what he's saying.
That's fair. But yeah, the male Aes Sedai who broke the world weren't evil. They were just insane. And she kind of goes on to say that, like, Aes Sedai aren't this, like, fully mystical... We're not, like, mystical beings. We're humans. She says that she'd only trust about half the Aes Sedai in Tar Valon anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, clearly there's some, like, internal politics going on with the Aes Sedai.
There was also this whole thing, because they were talking about the 5 powers, and I think Moiraine says something about how the men usually channel earth and fire.
Yeah.
And the women usually have water and wind, and Egwene's like, oh, the men get all the strong ones. And Moiraine's kind of like, air snuffs out a fire.
Right.
Water can wear down earth.
Right.
Those are they are the more fluid ones, but they're the stronger of them.
I don't think specifically says that they're stronger. She just points out that Egwene is thinking about it wrong. That's none
fair.
of the powers are inherently stronger than any of the other ones. You just think that. And what she says is men are usually born stronger. Men who can channel the one power are usually born stronger in earth and fire. And women who can channel the one power are usually stronger in wind and water. It's a little, I mean, there's like some gender stuff going on here, right? Because you got the earth and fire, the men, wind and water is the women.
Well, those are the masculine elements, and the feminine elements are wind and water. And then there's spirit, which is kind of just like a gendered.
Yeah, and spirit is particularly rare. I don't know if they say that, but it feels not that weird to say that.
I mean, if you're basing it off of any sort of, if you're just basing it off of magical system lore, yeah, spirit tends to be more rare.
Right.
Like, that's how, if you read any fantasy that has elemental alignments, spirit's rare.
Yeah. And one thing kind of with the Wheel of Time's magic system is that there are actual numbers involved in strength rankings for various channelers. Strength rankings, unless they're way different, don't usually matter.
Is it kind of like weight classes in wrestling?
A little less so.
Or like if you're you can be in a group, but like if you're 3 pounds heavier than someone, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be stronger than them. It just,
a little bit.
You're just in the same weight class.
The way it works,
that is the
kind of
extent
behind
of my
the
knowledge.
scenes, is that men can be stronger than women. They have like 6 extra levels of strength, but that doesn't mean that the strongest man and the strongest woman in the one power aren't evenly matched. It's just how they use their power.
There's just more steps for them to get to that highest level of power. That's how I'm kind of understanding it.
So, yeah, I don't know how much to tell you about strength in the one power here.
I'm sure I'll either figure it out or it won't matter.
Yeah, it will be pretty clear what strength in the one power is.
And that one power, Moiraine mentions that someone else in the Two Rivers has that possible power. And Egwene is immediately listing off. Egwene immediately lists off a whole bunch of people that we've never heard of. And I'm like, your first thought isn't the wisdom? When Moiraine literally just told you that people who don't know they can channel the one power end up becoming wisdoms. You didn't, you bring that, my money's on the other person being Nynaeve.
Okay, you think
especially because of what Min says when she goes on her whole tangent about the weird symbolism of people. Again, I don't want that woman reading my aura. But she reads the whole group's aura, and they have this kind of lightning, buzzing, fire around them, and she's like, you're all connected. I can see the connections between you in the air.
Right.
And when Nynaeve comes, she's like, the connection between you all is stronger. She's involved in this somehow.
Yeah.
And so, what connects all these people? The Dark Power, the Aes Sedai. It would be weird if Nynaeve was somehow connected to this and doesn't channel some sort of magic.
Okay, that kind of leads me to another question. Do you think any of the boys or Tom can channel? We've had 0 evidence of it so far.
We've had 0 evidence. I don't think Tom can, because he's old, and if he could, he'd already be insane in a volcano.
Okay. That's fair.
To me, it doesn't matter if it's actually true. All men who have channeled
turn into a volcano.
Turn into a volcano.
Okay.
All volcanoes in this world were once crazy men.
Okay. Interesting theory.
Hot take.
Ha. Very hot.
That was my little drum thing because we don't have sound effects.
I excluded Lan from that grouping because Lan is an Aes Sedai's warder.
Right, he doesn't count. I don't think Tom does because he'd already be insane.
Okay.
I think part of me thinks that maybe the boys can because if the What's-Its-Face is going to use them up just like it used all the previous dragons, then that means that they could be a dragon, which means that they would be able to channel.
Okay.
So I'm not against it, but...
Okay. Not all false dragons could channel. It's mentioned a couple times that...
But the true dragon would be able to.
Yes, Luz Theron could, quite strongly, if he was able to turn himself into a large volcano.
Right, so if the Trollocs are after them, it is because they think that he could be the dragon.
He?
They.
Okay. They.
Like.
Okay.
If...
Because they're all having the same things happen to them.
Right. I think just more, if the Dark One is going to be after a person because they think that he can be the dragon.
That person probably can channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we don't know much about the other false dragons except that they just claimed that they were a false dragon. But the Dark One seems to be seeking out these boys.
Yes, definitely true. Because they are sending, he is sending quite a few angry creatures at him. You said this a little earlier, why you think Nynaeve can channel. Moraine goes into a little bit about why they end up as wisdoms. And it's because, not why, more how. Women who are born with the ability to channel, if they don't learn how to control it somehow, usually die.
Yeah. And it seems like being a wisdom somehow unknowingly channels that. Okay. It kind of, now that you said that, it kind of feels like Credence in Harry Potter. What's he? Because he didn't use his magic.
An Obscurus.
An Obscurus. It kind of seems like...
Obscurial?
Obscurus.
Well, one is the, evil creature, and one is the person who is the host for the evil creature.
I think Obscurus is the evil creature.
Yeah.
But...
So Credence is an Obscurial.
Right. So Credence didn't use his magic, and therefore it built up in him into being an Obscurus. And most people who have an Obscurus in them die. It seems kind of similar to that. Okay. Whereas, the magic will just build up and turn you into a volcano whether you want to or not. Okay. But because they're women, they don't turn into a volcano. They just combust somehow. They can either choose to combust like that one lady did who destroyed an entire town, or you do it by accident because you just blow up.
Yep. Okay. Interesting take.
But it seems like somehow being a wisdom doesn't channel it in the way that it's meant to, but it channels it enough that it keeps you from dying. Okay.
Like an amateur thing.
Yeah. Okay. Because it feels like a lot of the wisdoms don't know that they can channel this. They just know that they're specialer than a normal person. So they're
especially in the Two Rivers where they kind of don't like Aes Sedai. So they wouldn't enjoy, or they wouldn't necessarily tolerate somebody who could do the same things being the head of their women.
Right. It's kind of like if you can do magic and you didn't know you could do magic doing sleight of hand tricks. You're probably actually making those things disappear. Just people think it's a sleight of hand trick. Right. Maybe Tom can.
Oh, maybe. He does a lot of sleight of hand and juggles.
Maybe that is his version of being a wisdom.
Okay.
Except he's not crazy. Well, he's a little crazy. But
is he crazy or is he just a cantankerous old man? I get cantankerous old man vibes off of him more than I get crazy.
That's fair.
And not even that. Like the cantankerous old man vibes make sense.
While we're on Tom, he does mention some things, which I know you're not going to tell me anything about, but I feel like I have to mention them for anyone who's reading along. He talks about the Great Hunt of the Horn and the Horn of Valir. Yep. I'm assuming that we'll get more about this because the next book is called The Great Hunt, right?
That is the title of the next book.
And then he talks about the Corythian cycle.
Corathon cycle.
Say that one more time.
Corathon
cycle and the prophecies of the dragon.
That is the prophecies of the dragon.
Okay, cool.
That's where we get the sword and the stone, literally.
Yeah, the stone of Tyr and the sword that cannot be touched. Does the sword that not be touched have anything to do with the sword that is not a sword that Min saw around Rand?
Maybe. Okay. I will neither confirm nor deny.
Eat it.
Read and find out. There's number 4.
Shaking my head.
So while we're talking about Min's visions, there are several. Let's go through them and see what you think they're going to be.
Okay.
Mostly just the like iconographic ones. So Lan has ruined towers.
And a babe in a cradle holding a sword.
Yes, what do you think those are?
I feel like a babe in the cradle holding a sword is some sort of analogy to Rand.
Okay.
So, like, Lan is going to be teaching Rand how to do.
Okay.
I don't know about the ruined towers. There's a whole lot of towers going on, because there's also the White Tower, which is surrounded by Tom. But the White Tower doesn't seem like a good thing, because that's where
the Aes Sedai are.
That's where the... Oh, is that where the Aes Sedai are?
Yeah.
Because I thought that... Because there was that creepy dream that we didn't talk about last episode, where he was going to the White Tower, and there was, like, a Myrddraal.
Yeah.
Is that Tar Valon?
I think that was Tar Valon.
Okay, I don't do symbolism all that well. Perrin has a wolf, a broken crown, and flowering trees. The wolf reminds me of Lan.
Okay.
A little bit, because he was described as looking like a wolf.
Yes, and also like several different slabs of stone.
And I guess Perrin has thighs of stone and arms of stone. Maybe we should have a counter for how many times we talk about Perrin's thighs.
It's like 5 at least this episode alone.
Matt has a red eagle, and
That's got a bunch.
Yeah. Not as many as Rand. A dagger with a ruby and a laughing face, a horn, which is probably the horn of Valir, I feel like.
Okay.
So maybe the next book is going to be centered on Rand. I have no idea what's happening. A laughing face, I mean, he plays a whole bunch of pranks, so I feel like that one's kind of...
He's a trickster.
Not all of them have to be terrible.
No.
Matt's even like, a red eagle? A horn? A dagger with a ruby? Cool. I'm a little bit sus on the eye on a balance scale thing, but hey, I'll take it.
Okay.
That's Rand's whole thing, and I feel like it's refreshing to have. I feel like everyone needs a Rand, and everyone needs a Matt in their party.
Okay.
And maybe that's what the laughing face is too. Like, you
Maybe.
are the relief.
He's comic relief.
He's the comic relief in the group. Rand has a sword that isn't a sword, a golden crown of laurel leaves, a beggar's staff, him pouring water on sand, hot iron, 3 women standing over his funeral pyre, black bloody rock, and then that's when he's like, okay, you don't have to list all of it. And then she's like, and most of all, I see lightning.
Just a bunch of
lightning coming out of you, around you.
Going towards
you. Just all kinds of lightning.
Yep.
Which, like, I don't know.
Okay. So you've got nothing on any of that. You think the sword that isn't a sword might be the sword that can't be touched.
Or it's a reference to his heron sword, which is clearly not just...
It's not just a sword.
It's not just a sword.
It's a heron sword.
It's a heron sword. He picked it up and was like, this is just a sword. But clearly, it's fancier than that because it doesn't dull. People look at it and go, why do you have that? I feel like...
Several people here.
Yeah, several people here. So it's clearly not just a sword.
Yeah. Okay.
And with visions, things aren't like, she may be saying these things, but it could just, like, there's symbolism within symbolism within symbolism, right. Which is why I hate symbolism.
It could not be literally a sword that isn't a sword. It could be something that represents, it could be like a battle that isn't a battle,
or it could just be, it could be a sword that isn't just a sword. Like, there could be words missing.
Okay.
It's like when you read tarot cards, and it's like, just because you flip death doesn't mean you're gonna die.
Okay, cool.
3 women standing over his funeral pyre does not sound all that good.
No, because she does say it's his.
Yeah, and there's a black bloody rock, which my brain immediately was like, oh, those 2 were listed next to each other, so maybe someone bludgeoned him, and now he's...
Yikes.
But he's also got a golden crown of leaves, which has very Julius Caesar vibes.
It does.
And Matt had a dagger with a ruby, so, like...
So I know...
And 2 Brutus. Like, what's happening here?
I know what almost all of these are.
Of course you do.
I am not entirely sure what the beggar's staff is. I don't know if that is just me forgetting, because it's a 14-book-long series.
Is that what you were looking up earlier?
No, I was looking up something completely different.
Okay. We were outlining, and he told me not to look over at his computer.
Yes. I'm not sure what the beggar's staff is. That's the only one.
Tom obviously juggles things, so juggling fire. Like...
Yeah. Oh, you didn't actually do Tom. So he has juggling fire and the White Tower.
Yeah, juggling fire.
Okay.
It could be more of an illusion that Tom is able to channel magic.
Could be.
Especially with the White Tower. But even Min is like, his don't make sense.
Right.
So either he has a connection to the Aes Sedai, or he is an Aes Sedai, which...
That'd be a little weird. There are no male Aes Sedai anymore.
Right. because they're all crazy and turn into volcanoes.
Right. It could be not all of them are things that will happen. For one thing, some of them are things that might happen. Some of them are things that just like truths.
Yeah.
I think she says something about Moraine.
She doesn't give anything about Moraine. She just says she sees a lot around Moraine that she also saw around Egwene, but the only indication she gives about Egwene is that her and Rand aren't going to work out.
Right.
But she doesn't say anything about Egwene and Moraine, which I found interesting.
Okay. I mean, it wouldn't be that weird, I feel like, for Moraine to have been like, hey.
Don't tell people my aura.
Don't tell people.
But I feel like if
and like Min seems
it should have extended to Lan too.
Would it?
Unless it's like, I don't know, because if maybe it's just she doesn't know enough. Maybe it's just Aes Sedai auras that she's so fuzzy on that she's not willing to say it out loud.
Could
or
be.
Maybe there's a pact that she's not supposed to say an Aes Sedai's thing, but it's fine for a warder. I have no idea.
Okay. And the last bit is that her visions could be the past.
Also true.
Clearly, at least 3 of the people here have seen some shit. So who knows what's from their past, what's from their present, and what's from their future.
Right, because Tom is an old guy and has traveled around the world.
Right. And he's good at sleight of hand. Maybe he's so good at sleight of hand that he can confuse even this, like, aura reader.
Yeah. Do not want that woman reading my aura.
Do you not like Min?
I don't not like her.
Okay, you just don't want her reading your aura.
I just don't want her reading my aura. I'm just like...
That's fair enough.
You're cute and nice and all, and you're a little weird.
She's very tomboyish.
But stay away from my aura.
Yeah.
There's already some stuff going on in my aura. I don't want your aura touching my aura.
That's fair. One last bit before I'm gonna say 2 segments because I'm gonna throw one at you. We run into Padden Fane again, who
is a hot
was
mess.
Dead, who was maybe dead before. People didn't see him. His cart was on fire. People were like, he's dead.
Yeah, I think my specific note there was Rand finds Padden Fane and he's a hot mess. That was what I wrote down.
Yeah, he's like in rags, a little out of his mind, and he's very, very insistent that Rand does not tell Moraine that Padden Fane is there.
Also, Rand, you literally were just yelled at by like 5 different people that you shouldn't talk about Moraine as Moraine.
Yeah, what the fuck, Rand?
What the fuck, Rand?
Rand gets hit with the idiot stick a lot in this part.
Yeah.
Because like the 2 parts before, he's like pretty level-headed.
Except when it comes to Egwene.
But there's a little bit of understanding there.
But like they're idiots to lovers, so it's fine.
Yeah, and they're not like he's not like that much of an idiot. He's just a little bit of an idiot.
Right. It's like he's like an idiot pining kind of idiot, not like a truly like what the fuck are you
Not
doing?
like a provoking White Cloaks idiot.
Yeah.
But yeah, Padden Fane being real weird.
He's being real shady. He was shady before. Didn't like him before. Now,
I mean, he's like a traveling merchant. They're kind of inherently a little shady.
He does. I think maybe I just didn't trust him because of the Pirelli vibes. Just like
yeah.
I also didn't. That's why I didn't trust the stories he was spinning at first because like.
Well, we've gotten several of those confirmed. Basically.
Yeah. Now we have.
All the Loghain stuff seems to be true, if maybe blown out of proportion here and there, because nobody's told the same thing twice.
But I mean, it's hearsay. No one writes anything down. So, like, we're not even sure that Rand. No, Rand does know how to read, so I would assume he knows how to write.
It's a weirdly literate medieval society.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up before I move to the second to last segment, which is ship updates. How are the ships?
The ships.
One's stuck in the Suez Canal again.
It's not looking good for Rand and Egwene.
No, we basically have kind of like semi-word of God saying they ain't gonna make it.
But
they're both real stubborn though, so maybe
they'll
just fight through it.
And like she said, not everything I say comes true. And right now, I've said it before. I said the phrase before: idiots to lovers.
Mm-hmm.
That what it really means is it's a shortened version of pining idiots to lovers. The love was always requited. They're just idiots. So they're kind of like, at the beginning, it was very clearly in this state of they both like each other.
Yeah.
They don't think that the other person likes them. Or they know, but they're still being dumb about it.
I think it's the latter.
I think now it's very clear that they do, but they're still being dumb. So it's like in that moment, if you read books and you're just like, oh my god, just kiss already and get it over with. I'm at that part.
Okay.
But like, I don't hate being at that part, or else I wouldn't read romance.
Yeah.
Because that happens a lot, where you're just like, oh my god, stop.
Yep.
But then when they do, you're just like, oh, yay.
Okay, so Rand and Egwene kind of in rough waters.
Rough waters.
Any new ships?
I don't think so. We haven't really...
Okay. We encountered several new characters here. or re-encounter
really?
old characters. Well, mostly Min.
Mostly Min.
Nynaeve showed back up.
Min kind of just strikes me as either like it all looks the same in the dark, or I don't want anyone near me in the dark. Either one.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm kind of sad that Moraine and Lan didn't share a room. Also, why did Rand not share a room with Matt and Perrin?
That was I saw that and I was like, why?
Why isn't he sharing a room with his friends?
Like have the boys sleep in one room and the older men sleep in the other.
Yeah.
Don't just like randomly have one 17-year-old boy in a room with like somebody who's like in his late 50s and somebody who's in his late 40s.
Which like then it makes sense that like why Moraine and Egwene had to share a room, because then like Egwene would have to share a room with one of these men, and that's no.
Well, I don't think there was a scenario where that could have happened, because like either the room configurations would have had to be, because they got 3 rooms, it would have had to be, if it was Moraine and Lan in one room, either Tom sleeps on his own.
Obviously, the one I would have wanted is Moraine and Lan in one room, Rand and Egwene in another room, and then everyone else just go on their own.
Okay.
And Matt probably finds some village or some town girl to go like.
That is in line with Matt's personality. He's like, I'm in a city. I'm gonna live it up.
That is the fanfic version of that night that I will never write.
Ah, okay. Cool.
That is the ship update.
Rand and Egwene, a night in the inn. The stag and lion. Anyway, last segment. Favorite moments. I think we both have the same favorite moments here.
I think we do. We both picked immediately the first one, which was the Moraine, "Oh no, your boat sank. What a strange course of events that I had no part in. What a pity." Like, the very much, and then Lan's follow-up of, "Oh no."
So the other bit, so there is Moraine's like, "Your boat sank. So weird. I didn't do it."
And then our other favorite moment, which came up as we were doing the
it's
summary
like
today.
entirely a throwaway moment. Rand wakes up after his creepy dream in The Stag and the Lion and goes downstairs and overhears a conversation about the like cook's cat having killed a bunch of rats in like a gruesome way. You know, their backs are broken, like in the dream. And the cook, Sarah, basically is like, "My cat is the best. How dare you criticize my cat? I'm going to leave now and take my cat with me. Thank you very much."
Carrying on that same trend of, "I hope you enjoy your own cooking, because I'm not going to do it for you anymore."
Right, at least here, like, she's an employee.
Yeah.
But in order to get the cook, Sarah, to stay, the innkeeper is like, "There's no need for this. No need. What would I do without you? Siri," the cat. "Siri's a fine cat, an excellent cat. He's the best cat in Bearlawn. If anyone else complains, I'll tell them to be thankful the cat is doing his job. Yes, thankful." And so there's like a full page of this argument about keeping a cat who's just the best cat in Bearlawn. And I think that's
He is the best cat in Bearlawn. He's just doing his job.
Although
he's killing the mice.
I don't think he killed the rats.
No, he didn't kill these rats. But he has been killing the rats. The woman goes on the whole point. It's like, you're complaining about he's been killing all the rats previously. What, do you want me to leave? Take my cat. And you'll just have rats and then no food. Like...
Yep.
It's just a whole mood that she went on for a page and a half about how awesome her cat is.
And she's like ready to go.
And she is. I mean...
I get it.
Yeah, if someone said anything about Stanley or Wink...
I'd leave.
I'd
take my cat and go home.
It's the quintessential, I'm taking my toys and going home.
Yeah, except it's my cat and I get to love them. Yeah. So those are our favorite moments. We leave off at kind of a weird spot.
It kind of leaves off with Nynaeve being like, "Okay, I see why you guys had to come with Moraine, but I'm gonna stay now too, even though I should go back and be Wisdom." It's left up. It was very much it's kind of a cliffhanger of like what's happening, but not enough that it made me tempted to turn the page.
Right. Like there's a whole bunch of setup here, and it doesn't leave off. The end of chapter 16 isn't like I need to find out what happens next. It's just like there's a whole bunch to find out next.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I think I can wait until after we record the episode.
Yeah.
Whereas with the first episode, with that chunk, it's like Tam gets stabbed. I'm like, but I want to know what happens next.
Yeah. All right. Next episode, part 4, Eye of the World. Chapter 17 to something.
Through something.
Some similar number of chapters or pages.
I read about 60 pages an episode, so however many chapters that ends up being.
Yep. This was Not the Beginning, episode 3. Bye.
Bye.